everybody, and welcome to a special episode of Burn the Talking Points. You can tell it's special because it's me hosting you, not my deputy director, Joe Francavilla, and I am coming to you live from sunny, almost sunny Los Angeles, where the sun is just coming up here for the annual winter DNC meeting. And I am joined by none other than Ms. April Ryan. And I'm super excited to have April Ryan with us for several reasons, but one being that we both went to the same illustrious university, Morgan State University.
We love beef. That's right.
And many of you would know that my way into Maryland was via Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland, and where I served on the Board of Regents at Morgan with Elijah Cummings and Kwesi Mfume. So it's really a full circle and special moment to be here, joined with one of our most illustrious and esteemed alums, April Ryan. So with that, I am going to turn it over to April to share a little bit about her background and her journey to being the longest serving Black woman White House correspondent.
No, Black person, period.
Black person, period. Correct that. Black person, period, correspondent. And April, if you could just kind of take us back to Morgan, like where or wherever you first got the journalism bug, and kind of what set you on that path for our listeners.
So let me say this. It wasn't just Morgan, that Morgan started me on the practice of journalism at WEAA. Kwesi Mfume was my first program director in 1985, right? But growing up in a home where my parents really put an emphasis on current events and news, my father, I'll never forget this. My father said, well, he would come home from work. He owned his own trucking company, drayage, from the Port of Baltimore. That's why I know that the Key Bridge was so important when it went down and what happens at the port. And we are some of our experiences, right? So my dad would come home from work, sit down and watch Walter Cronkite. That's the way it was. And I would say, Dad, why are you always watching news? I mean, it was constant. It was his ritual. As soon as he come home, he said to a 9-year-old April or 7 or 8-year-old April, I want to see when the world comes to an end. Instead of running, I ran to. A child at 9, 7, 8, 9 years old, you don't tell them, I want to find out when the world comes to an end. So I wanted to find out too. So I believe it started there. I remember when I was growing up in Baltimore City, we would listen to WSID in Annapolis, AM stations. We would listen to WBAL for the snow alerts. My parents had news on all the time. But trust me, in the car and that little red Chevrolet going up and down the street, we would listen to WWI, and we would listen at WEVV. We would listen to the Temptations. We would listen to the Supremes, Diana Ross, all of that stuff. I was born in 1967, just 9 months before Dr. King was assassinated. So I am that kid who had aware parents, whose parents also taught me about racism. They taught me, my mother used to tell me that sometimes they couldn't shop in certain stores here in Baltimore. Elijah Cummings told me that in my book, At Mama's Knee, how they would have to sometimes go on the back instead of the front. My mother would tell me they'd have to go to Philadelphia to shop and different things like that. But I come from 2 agrarian families. My father from Maryland, from Sparks area of Maryland, and my mother from North Carolina. But the 2 of them taught me some very early lessons about current events. My mother was ahead of her time. She worked at Morgan State 42 and a half years until her death. She worked in the student activities department. She had Kwanzaa. She talked about recycling. She was so ahead of her time. She always regaled me about Black history. I grew up on Morgan State's campus. I'm a Morgan baby. I'm not just a Morgan student. I believe I am who I am in part because of the unknowing collaboration of Robert and Vivian Ryan and Morgan State University. So, yes, heart that.
Yeah, that's my name too.
Yeah. Would you say?
Vivian is my mom's name too.
Go figure. Go figure.
Even a little Morgan baby.
Yeah. So I think it was the sum of all my parts that brought me to this place because I'm so fascinated about Black history. I'm a student of history because my mother, we would sit down at the kitchen table in Baltimore, Maryland, Baltimore City. And if I had peanuts on the table, you know how many uses there are to a peanut? You know about George Washington Carver. You know, a Black man designed the traffic pattern in Washington, D.C., designed the streets. Do you know that the gas mask? I mean, she would go on. And let me tell you, one person that she continued to talk about, who was a professor at Morgan at one time, the late Charles Drew. She talked about how this Black man was the father of the modern blood donation system and how he died from racism. And I say it because he was driving down south and the problem was he had fallen asleep at the wheel. And at that time, Black people weren't allowed to spend the night in those hotels on the side of the road, right? That's racism. And he fell asleep at the wheel. And the rest of the story I got from his daughter, Charlene Drew Jarvis, who happened to be a DC City Council person. And I told her how my mother used to always regale me about her dad. And she said, yeah, she said, because the story was they wouldn't accept him into the hospital, but that wasn't true. What Charlene Drew Jarvis said is that when they took him by ambulance to the hospital, they were going to take him down to the Black portion of the hospital. And they didn't take him because a white doctor saw him and recognized him and took him upstairs to the general where white people stayed. But the unfortunate part is his injuries were grave, so he didn't make it. But stories like that, have stayed with me. And what my parents did, news always in the house. Go figure. That's why April Ryan is doing what she does now.
Amazing. That is just an incredible, incredible story. And hearing you talk about how race and race relations were spoke about so commonly in your home, that kind of leads me to the first time I met you was at Morgan State University when you were promoting your first book.
Wow.
Miss Corbett at the time.
And she worked, she worked exactly. It was the friends.
Yes, and your first book deals with, as you mentioned, race and how we talk about it in our families and everything. And you being it struck me as something as very like, powerful that you were comfortable to just talk about these things.
And I'm not comfortable because let me tell you, as my mother regaled me about this and told me about this, she said, "You never talk about religion and race in the workplace." She told me that, and now I'm like, I listened to one part and just said, "Light up another one." But yeah,
That's how you bring it forward, right? You bring it into modern times, where our parents' wildest dreams. So she's probably looking like, April, wow, you took that and took it all the way to the White House and put it in a book, and how proud she must be.
and working on my fifth book. Yeah, she's up in heaven. Her book. She's my yeah. She's to this day, she is my inspiration. Um, I miss her every day. She's been gone for about 18 years now, and I still want to cry. I mean, I'm thinking about her right now, and it's bringing tears to my eyes. But the best way to bring both my mother and my father forward for me is to honor them by doing what they did. You know, um, trying to teach my children, each generation should do better. We push for each generation to do better. My fight is my writing. My fight is my truth, getting information from the highest offices in the land and telling you. It's important. Who knew this little big mouth girl, this little hyper girl from Baltimore City, Maryland, attending an HBCU would be the longest serving Black White House correspondent in the nation's history?
Incredible. Incredible. So let's bring us to your work in journalism and your current focuses that you're dealing with. And I was doing some research on you, and I was doing some research on some of the most recent things that you've been talking about and dealing with, and something that is very unfortunately top of mind with the Trump administration are the attacks on the press, right? And I also to make sure I share, this is the Maryland Democratic Party's podcast, but April Ryan is a journalist, and she is not that she isn't espousing any part of reporting. Yeah, not no. But I do just want to touch on the attacks, on the press. You've been very outspoken about that, and would love to just kind of talk about your vantage point to that, and your recent feelings around it.
It's triggering because this is the second term of Donald John Trump, the worst term. I mean, the first term was bad. I mean, really bad. He attacked myself, Yamiche Alcindor, and Happy Phillips, and Don Lemon and Jim Acosta, minority people. But I got a good run of it from inside that White House, and every time I walked out, there were people outside waiting for me. Um, it was intimidating. People, some of my colleagues saw it. I had to get a bodyguard. No, no reporter should have to get a bodyguard. The white founding fathers put in place the First Amendment, freedom of the press, because when the checks and balances don't check out, which they're not right now, because it seems everyone is co-opted into this MAGA mind meld. Who's left? It's the fourth estate, the press, independent press. I don't bow to him. I don't bow to anyone. I write without fear or favor. But the first time I did have fear. And to watch what's going on now, it's painful. But I'm writing about it. But I'm going to say this, and I've said this here a bit. If the American public would have dealt with it the first time, if they would have stood up and pressed about it the first time with me, Yamiche, and Abby, bomb threats, he used to say bombs, bomb squads come into my house. The place where I'm talking to you from right now, I had to move from my other home to hide out so people couldn't readily find me. I mean, but it's going to take you a minute to find me.
Mom.
If the American public had not just looked at us like, oh, he's just, and it's like they said the first time when he ran, when he basically said Barack Obama was illegitimate with birtherism. And also when he was just saying things during the first presidential campaign, people say, oh, he's just doing that to get attention. As a man speaketh, he is, right? As a man speaketh, he is. If people would have really taken him seriously, it was entertainment for people before. They didn't see us as real people. But now, like, oh my God, did you see what they said to this person? The contrast, these minority women and minority men, but yet these white women, oh my God, you don't call people piggy. One of his staffers called me Miss Piggy. Oh my God, you don't do it. If you would have handled it the first time, we are people too.
Right. Right. And I also just want to point out, as you mentioned, like, you're a woman, you have, two children, right? And and despite all of that, you still continue to show up. You still continue to show up. Many people might have said, this is too much. I'm going to stop. I'm going to quit. I'm not going to do this anymore. But you continue to show up. Can you tell us why you continue to power through, and what keeps you going?
First of all, I thought about it on many occasions. The night that Sean Spicer told me stop shaking my head, and he talked, and I asked him just about Russia, the Russia influence. He said, "Well, if we had Russian salad dressing, that would be something." That really tore my spirit. And I'll never forget that night. I was driving home, and a friend of mine, Ryan Williams, who now works at the DC library system, Martin King Library in DC, and he was working at NBC. He said, "April, did you hear what Hillary Clinton said about you?" I said, "What?" I said, "No, I'm driving home." It took me hours to gather myself from work to leave the White House and to get home. And he said, "Did you not hear what Hillary said?" I said, "No." She said, she did the speech. She said, "People like Maxine Waters and April Ryan and Ted Bowen, did you hear what they said about they're saying about them?" I was like, that gave me the wind. Hillary Clinton gave me the push. I don't care what you think about Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, but those words gave me the push to keep going. And then, because I said, what am I, in that drive home before Ryan called me, I said, what am I going to do? I don't know what else to do. I said, what am I trained for? Remember, I got the best training I could from Robert and Vivian Ryan in their home. And then the next lesson from WEAA, from Morgan State, from Telecom, from Gilbert Maddox and Alan Kennedy and all the other professors that were there. And I'm like, this is what I trained for. And I said, wait a minute. My working class parents, my Black working class parents, worked too hard for me to get this degree, to move higher, for this ignorance to take it from me. Let me tell you something. I prayed and I walked on faith. Um, there has been a hedge of protection around me. Trust me, the attacks came, but there's been a hedge of protection. And now in the second term, oh, I'm very strategic. They don't know when I'm coming. So they don't see me coming. I have to stagger my appearances. It's crazy because my husband, oh my God, he told me, he said, "You're a target. And if they catch you, they want." I said, "Oh," and that's my thing. So my words right now are strategy and being strategic, outthinking them. I've been through this. I know what this looks like, smells like, and tastes like. This feels like I'm speaking to someone about something that's happening in Russia or China. This is the United States of America, and this is happening. Yes, I'm still under threat. I asked a question of Caroline Levitt 2 weeks ago. I got death threats. People call me baboon. People call me all. I'm like, child, whatever. Sticks and stones may break my bones. Words do cause permanent damage, but it didn't hurt me. Because you know why? Somebody who doesn't have a job is sitting behind a key.
Exactly.
Just doing this. I'm not worried about you. I am your threat. Black women are your biggest threat because we are not afraid to tell the truth. We love from here. And my love is to tell the truth. I have a passion for what I do. You're not here for 28 years by happenstance. I love what I do. I love informing a community that still has the highest numbers of negatives in almost every category. And it's gotten worse with this man. So I've expanded my reach. I'm now the host of a Substack show called The Tea with April. Join me to sip some tea at 5 o'clock on Thursdays, and we have special segments. I've gained trust and I've had integrity, the trust of a lot of politicians, entertainers, etc., to talk to me. And everyone, and like Hillary Clinton said, the integrity. I've had 4 American presidents to talk about how integral I am. That says something. And consider the source on the fifth
Well, you just took me to my next question for you. As I mentioned, I first I first met you when you were promoting your first book, and then the Trump presidency came, and what was a, trying time for you propelled you in many ways into an even bigger national figure for us all to watch. And I would just want to commend you for keeping going, because I'm a strong believer in if you see it, you can achieve it. And just imagine how many Black women, Black girls see you and feel like, they can do what you do.
And that's the problem for me, Karen. A lot. I was somewhere and someone said, "I want to be just like you." I'm like, "No, you don't look at me. You be you. You be you." When I was in school and started out ready, "Oh, you want to be Oprah?" I said, "No, no, no, no. I do not want to be Oprah." I said, "God has blessed. I have been blessed to watch Oprah. Oprah's been in my life." She started down. Right. I grew up watching her here, and then she went national. She gave me an understanding that Black women, somebody who looks like me, can do something great. But I don't want her blessing, because everybody can't handle everything. That's her blessing. God has given me what He's given. I mean, I've often thought, why is this big mouth little girl from Baltimore out here knocking down dragons in DC? Because I guess that's the blessing that He wants me to have. My father was a strong man. Woo! He gave me the courage, and my mother gave me the empathy and the wisdom. Both of them gave me wisdom, but my mother had the heart, the huge heart. My father was, well, but I don't want people to come and look at me and say, "I want to be like you," because you don't know the cross that I have to bear. You don't know the therapy that I've had to go through because of the residue of that hate. I would not wish this on anyone. But what I would say is journalism has changed from when I started. The business is contracting. Donald Trump has created a situation where anti-woke, anti-DEI, Black media and media in general, anything that's considered liberal, anything that's considered other, minority, having a problem because a lot of advertisers are pulling back their dollars. Black media is in trouble. So I don't know what it's going to look like in the next 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 years. Um, I'm not 60 yet, but I'm closer to, I want to say I got at least another 10, 15 years. A lot of people out here reporting in their 70s, but who knows? But what I'm saying is I'm not finished, but I don't know what it's going to look like for those young people in college who want to study this in the next 5 years. I've got someone who just graduated that I've watched grow as a kid. He worked at a major news organization. Now he can't find a job. And I'm trying to help him. Um,
Well,
it's hard.
I did want to ask you, because, we talked about you listening to AM radio, right? And then now we talk about Substack. No, now we're talking about you having, your own Substack show. So can you kind of talk to us about the different, like the growth of independent media and the different outlets, and why it's important for us to be in different spaces, and just to share, like, this didcast that we have is our attempt at, like, meeting people in different ways and trying to just get information to people in different ways. Can you just kind of talk about what that looks
The
like?
delivery systems are changing. The delivery system. I was a kid. We had 3 TV stations. Oprah was on one of them. Those the network stations, and you had those little crazy US, whatever they are, like Mondi the Sea Monster kind of things, and those little things, Batman, little fun stuff. And then TV used to go off at like after Johnny Carson, and then the flag would come on, and the um you hear the national anthem. I don't see that anymore. We now have a 24-hour news system called cable that's obsolete now, almost. You're finding more people streaming on these things to get their news. They just stream. They're not watching the news like they used to. And what's happening is a lot of the traditional news organizations are co-opting with something that the president say. We're seeing a lot of Black people lose jobs, Washington Post, CBS, other places, and they're opting to take their skills and crafts to subscription-based independent outlets like Substack, right? because we're not seeing everything that we used to see, because this president wants to sue people. A lot of these organizations are afraid of being sued. There's no regulation right now on independent media. Right now, as you heard me say, there's no regulation on Substack. But a lot of us are there. I mean, I still work for Black Press USA. I have the T under the contrarian. I was Substack today. It's number one. It's number one. The programming, yes, yes. With Norm Eisen and Jen Rubin, and they offered me an opportunity to have a show to do, and it's been amazing. And we're expanding. We've got podcasts. People like to listen to podcasts. People want to be able to pick and choose what suits them now, right? Because they don't have the trust factor in media was always there, but it's gotten worse, especially with Donald Trump. And now with how people are guarding and figuring out how I'm going to tell this, a lot of the tried and true journalists that are now on Substack. People want to hear the truth from people that they trust.
That is so true. And so very, very important. I mean, if you ask five people, where they get their news from, you'll get five completely different answers from people. Um, so I have a question for you. So you've been in several White Houses, several different administrations, right? The kids talk about the vibe check and everything like that, right? Tell us about just like the vibe from going from Trump 1.
Woo!
Well, let's go back. From going from
It's
Obama to Trump. Biden,
like when I first
had Clinton. Yeah, I mean, when I was awful about you, like how
he had more Black journalists there because he was considered, quote, the first Black president. But, because there's been such a dearth of empathy, compassion, and bringing Black folks to the table, Toni Morrison said, call him. He's the first Black president. He had Black kitchen cabinet members like Ferdinand Jordan. He really had, it wasn't optics. He had people in spaces and places who looked like us, right? This centrist Democrat. Then when George W. Bush came, the numbers of Black folks left. But it was still the same kind of, if I say something and they don't want to answer, somebody else would follow up and press. That's why it's called the press. We would press the press secretary to give us the answer. So then after he came, here comes a man with a funny name and some ears. And there was a plethora of Black people. Oh, I'm covering the president. To cover that place every day is hard. The numbers dwindled. They didn't come every day like they did. They started dwindling. Then when Donald Trump came, it was a vacuum. It felt like every Black person was sucked out by a vacuum. And then it became tense. It was a lot of different people that we never seen before. It became tense. If you say something, they report it. If it. A lot of the reporters were sycophants. They were very much conservative based. It was about Donald Trump. He was the celebrity. I have to fight for Donald. The reporters felt like it. And now, oh my God, it's terrible. Well, Biden, let's say Biden. Biden, they tore poor Biden up. Yeah, he's older. What do you think happens when somebody gets old? I'm going to say this. I was told on the record that Ronald Reagan fell asleep in a Congressional Black Caucus meeting, and he kept slapping himself. He never apologized. Never apologized. He tried to stay awake. He never apologized.
why?
I never on one day heard or saw Joe Biden fall asleep. So, yeah, he may have gone up and took a nap or whatever, but we never saw him fall asleep. It is embarrassing to see this president.
Right. If we literally, it's embarrassed. We saw the images.
Sleepy Joe thing has got to go.
It does.
This president is physically not well. Okay, we see this, but I think the reporters are starting to get a little bit of backbone and challenge him. I think it's because his poll numbers have dropped so low now that it's like, hey, what you gonna do? You don't have the support. But still, there's a lot of sycophants there. Every time I come, people like to take pictures. I'm like, "Lita," it's crazy. It's like they are spies for this president. Oh, did she get this? And it's just it's thick. I'm very sensitive to being in rooms. I feel rooms. I feel people. I'm not saying I'm intuitive or nothing, but you can feel when something is different.
Right.
You can. I I've been in that place is like my second home. I've been on there, and then when one thing is off, you can feel it and see it and taste it and smell it. So it's a different day. Will the White House ever be the same? I don't know. I've never imagined that somebody would knock down a piece of the White House and there would be something even bigger than the White House itself that's an appendage to the White House.
It's unbelievable. Like that, watching that on TV. I mean, for those of us who, I mean, I went to the White House under the Biden administration, took my daughter a couple of times, but not nearly as many times as you have gone but imagine the people who have never even had the opportunity to be at the White House, see it being torn apart like that.
It's the people's house, and it's unsettling because if you can do this without any kind
Exactly.
of checks and balances or some kind of someone saying no, you can't do this, what else can happen? But the thing that makes me laugh about that East Wing is something. The thing that makes me laugh about it is during I went to see the first lady's chief of staff, Mrs. Obama's chief of staff one time. They were dealing with a stink bug infestation. I said, in the White House. But you got to remember, it's the old place.
Oh, yeah.
I remember everyone loved, that was the side when visitors would come in and they would look at all the pictures and the history of it. And I remember George W. Bush invited me and my kids, to go to the theater to have a movie. I think it was one of those Dr. Seuss movies, and like it's like in the theater.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's the memories of walking through that space. And it's torn up. Why? Because I have a whim, a $300 million whim. And you got people who are out here hungry, people trying to figure out their health care. I I hope that this nation can come back from this moment, from the golden era, and settle itself and find itself again. Politics is about people, not about party. Power is service. Mignon Moore, Democratic strategist in the Clinton administration. She was the Sherpa to get Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson into the Supreme Court. She's one of the Sherpas, her and Nia Daughtry.
And for our listeners, she was the chair of the Democratic National Convention in 2024 in her home of Chicago, Illinois.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, as you wrap up, we do want to play a game at the end, but I want to ask you if you can. I do want to ask you though, if not to put you on the spot, but from your like memory, what would you say was like one of the most important questions that you've asked? And then what would you say is one of the most striking answers that you've gotten being a White House correspondent?
I got three things. Well, no, four. One, I kept asking, is there going to be an apology for slavery and reparations during the Clinton years? And I told Mike McCurry, the former White House press secretary at the time, I said, y'all were the last chance to do it. He said, at the time I didn't understand about reparations. But now I said, see, now you're saying that. Two, I asked constantly during the Clinton years up to the Obama years, will the Black farmers get their money? Clinton promised it, and it didn't happen until Obama. And John Boyd, the head of the National Black Farmers Association, credited with helping. Because I was asking when it wasn't, thank you, when it wasn't popular. Oh, Mr. President, are you a racist? During the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday weekend. It took him 3 days to answer. That question lingered in the air. We don't need to ask it. I don't think it's
Big win. Listen, I'm from Atlantic City, New Jersey. I know.
look, you could bankrupt the casino. Thinking about that Hillary Clinton going over there. Honey, look, he bankrupt. See why now? But anyway, it's just jokes, okay. My, um, and the last one was the most important and poignant to me. And it almost brings me to tears. See, I don't look back on what I do, and I just do what I do, but it brings me to tears. Remember when Ava DuVernay did the movie on Central Park 5, The Exonerate?
Yes.
Mr. President, are you going to apologize to Central the Exonerate 5? I don't know why you're asking me that right now. Well, they said they were guilty, and the prosecutor said, and I was okay. So, fast forward a couple months later, I'm at the Congressional Black Caucus after party, saying goodbye to everybody. This one guy said, Miss Ryan, we want to talk to you. And I turned around, I said, hey, how you doing? He said, my name is Dr. Salam, Yusef Salam. I was like, this is, and this is, he said, we want to thank you.
Wow.
For asking that question. They were seen in that moment by this man, Donald Trump, who was a civilian, and put out these full-page ads in the New York Times newspaper and other places calling for the death penalty for these children who were exonerated because of DNA evidence, and someone saying they did it, and he still would. Imagine if what he wanted happened. Yusef Salam is now a city councilman. Those men see me and they hug me. And let me tell you something. The most recent lawsuit that they had, their attorney gave me an interview. He said, I'm not interviewing with anybody but you. Well, not everybody, but he said, I'm only giving a few interviews, but I'm interviewing with you. He said, because your question to Donald Trump was one of the strong pillars for our lawsuit to go forward.
Wow. Wow.
You ask a question, be prepared for the answer, because sometimes my questions have shifted if someone gets paid money or not. Families who had people who pushed for that money for the farmers, some of those people died, their descendants got it, but those questions helped. That question made these 5 young men feel seen. Even though they were exonerated, they were still on our lips. It wasn't just about a movie, but the man who now became president once wanted you dead over something you didn't do. I ask questions a lot of times that other people don't want or scared to ask. We are a part of America. I am America. I am America. I'm a part of America that's still hurting. Iyanla Vanzant said, I am my brother's keeper. No, I am my brother. I am my sister's keeper. No, I'm my sister. I could be in any one of those people's shoes. I could be someone who doesn't have health care. I could be someone who could lose their house because my challenge wasn't heard in the Civil Rights Division of HUD, because they're pulling the Civil Rights Divisions out of all of these agencies. My child who could have some kind of learning disability doesn't make it through the cracks because education has been torn up. I am that person. When I ask questions, I am that person. I put myself in the space of all of those because there before the grace of God go I.
Well, we thank you for being a voice for the voiceless, and standing in the gap in so many different ways. And we really, truly, truly appreciate you. So going to our game, you mentioned we don't know where to find April Ryan, but I know that, I do know that For many years, you did commute from Baltimore to Washington, and that was a
Do I get
for you.
training I did it the train till I was pregnant until 9/11. I said, no more.
So obviously, Baltimore is very important to you. You didn't move closer to Washington, D.C., you stayed in Baltimore. So now we're going to play a best of Baltimore game. If somebody has never been or is visiting or coming for a conference, can you tell us where is the best place to get a crab cake in Baltimore? In your opinion? Coco's.
Way over there. But that thing, it's like you eat a piece, you have another for the next day. It's so big and so good. All right. And that pass that one. I,
All right. So if I want to go grab dessert in Baltimore, like where would I go for ice cream, cake, whatever you recommend?
my husband and I love Vacaros. I love the pinoli cookies. He loves the wedding cookies. I don't know what they call them. And off the Vacaros downtown, and Little Italy. And we love their Italian ice. Yeah, it's
Oh,
all
that sounds good. I'd take my daughter there. Okay, so you mentioned your husband. What's the best date night
all
spot
styles.
to go in Baltimore?
Okay, the best place, the place that we love to get. Well, in Baltimore City. Okay, um, date night. The best date night we had, or
Either one. If you want to share the best one you've had or the best place that you would recommend for someone, it might be the same answer.
okay, the Ivy Hotel. He takes me there, be it dinner, breakfast, or just the high tea and stay. The Ivy Hotel, black owned in Baltimore. And Blanco's Kitchen and Cocktails on Charles Street. We like to hang out. I'm telling you too much. And well, that's okay. That's for a date night. But yeah, so you want to do what about going out with friends? In Baltimore City, Urban Oyster. I was there the other day. It was so cute. Black owned. Yeah.
Wow, awesome. Amazing.
Hamden, yes.
Amazing. Okay, this is number 4. Favorite thing to do around in the holiday season in Baltimore. If I'm going where Christmas time, where do you go? Are you taking your kids or where do you like?
Favorite thing to do holiday time? Well, year round, our favorite thing to do. We have a candle company called Jer Candles. Yeah, yeah, and we have a candle company called Jer Candles, jercandles.com. We make candles. We have been, one of our clients is Vic Carter, from who used to be at Channel 13. He has his own tea company, so we do. Everybody has another gig. Yes. But what we like to do, we as we do a lot of pop-ups, we like to go to pop-ups and find local crafts. We love local crafts. We go to pop-ups, we go shopping. A couple years ago we did ice skating downtown around the harbor. I
Did
did
that
that on
last year with my daughter. Did that last year with my daughter. Yeah, we survived.
Yeah, I didn't fall. We like to go to 34th Street, in Baltimore, to watch the lights. What else do we like to do? We like driving around, seeing people's lights. And go down. We like shopping, drive around. Oh, we go to a lot of ugly, but the parties we go to a lot of times is out of town. But it's in DC. But because we don't get invited to Baltimore stuff. Um, we do that. We go to a lot of holiday parties and we like decorating our house on the inside. I am the Black Martha Stewart. I am love that for you. I'm telling you, I will take fishing wire or chicken wire, whatever, and put bulbs. Let me tell you, my railings and all this, I love decorations. And yeah, that's what we do.
That's awesome.
Our stage cookies and eggnog, unspiked eggnog. I like it spiked. And my husband makes chitlins.
Ooh.
Best chitlins for New Year's. Yeah, I have them. Yes, he looked like a Southern woman standing over that sink. Last year, I was like, he was taking it out. Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing. Okay. My last question is the hardest question. What is the best college in Baltimore City?
Morgan State Fifth. Morgan's tried, I'm so true. Yes, Morgan State University. I'm a Morgan baby, and this is my quote: HBCUs love you to success. Morgan did that for me.
And I can say the exact same.
Hey,
You can say the exact same. Morgan, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you right now if it were not for Morgan State University and if it were not for the alumni network at Morgan State University. Everybody tell you that HBCUs don't have a strong alumni network. They are lying to you. Uh-uh.
and that's the thing. It's not, and it's crazy in Baltimore. They're like, what high school did you go to? That's the Baltimore thing. Spawn network here. But at Morgan, I went to school with David E. Talbert, the playwright who did Jingle Jangle on Netflix. He knows everybody in Hollywood. Kevin Liles, Mesa Lake. I mean, Kwesi Nkrumah was my program director. My God, I mean, I'm fortunate. And a lot of people, there is that Morgan connection. People know, if they don't know anything about me, they know I'm Baltimore and Morgan. End of story. That's it. You know the White House. But yeah, those are the several things. If you say April Ryan, Baltimore, Morgan State, White House, bank.
All wrapped up in one. And we are so proud to call you a daughter of Maryland, a daughter of Baltimore, and of course, a daughter of Morgan State University.
I'm what the mayor calls us. I'm Wakanda. I'm Wakanda. Yes.
Well, thank you so very much, April Ryan, for joining us for this very special episode of Burn the Talking Points. And thank all of you for joining us for this episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and share, and stay tuned for season 2 of Burn the Talking Points. This will be coming next year in 2026. And I want to say happy holidays to everyone for joining us. Don't worry, Joe will be back, but thank you, Joe, for letting me keep your seat warm while you're away. And we will be back with you all next year. So thank you again.